As boys in Columbia, South Carolina, Chevy Cook and his brother were drifting toward trouble. His story turns the moment a neighbor recognized where that path led and took them in. Mama J made something clear. Education was the way out, and excellence was the only way forward.
She says, you have to get out of this neighborhood and you have to go to college and you have to do it for free. That was her ultimatums.
Chevy's fifth grade teacher saw the same potential and challenged him with a single question. Where did he want to be in 5 years?
Hey, all this extra energy you're cutting up in class and everything, if you took that energy and focused on those questions, you might be a better person.
By high school, a guest speaker introduced him to a place that would change everything, West Point.
Here comes this West Point graduate. I never heard of the institution, didn't know where it was. And after she talked about this place and it clicked in my ears, well, my mama said I need to go to college. Boom, this is a college. I need to go for free. Oh, boom.
Chevy graduated from West Point in 2004 and commissioned as an air defense artillery officer at Fort Bragg before deploying to Afghanistan.
We're doing force protection in CRAM, counter-rocket artillery mortar. And then we're going to transition to a hybrid unit that has Patriot. And here I am going to have to learn a whole new weapon system and a new way of leading. And I was like, well, if I'm going to change, maybe this is an opportune time to change to something else that can maybe be more unique. And I wanted to do something with psychology.
He went on to earn his PhD and years later returned to West Point, where he absorbed a different kind of lesson entirely. Cadets didn't just need stories of triumph. They needed to examine failure honestly and without flinching. That candor, the humility, vulnerability, and hard-won self-reflection propelled Colonel Chaveso Cook, known to friends as Chevy, through a distinguished career. An Army leader in psychological operations, West Point professor, speechwriter for the Secretary of the Army, and advisor on the Joint Staff at the Pentagon. In this episode of Army Matters, our co-hosts sit down with Colonel Cook to discuss some of his most effective mentors, how learning to write shaped his thinking, and why every leader needs a failure resume. I'm Carrie Varuhaikis, and this is Army Matters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Army Matters. I am here with my co-host, Leslie C. Smith, the 66th Inspector General of the United States Army.
And I'm here today with my co-host, the 15th Sergeant Major of the Army, Daniel A. Blue Eyes Dailey. How are you today, Blue Eyes?
I'm doing great. I need a nickname for you.
Just call me Les.
Les.
Yeah, just call me.
No,
Yeah.
we need something better than
another
that.
one?
What's your college
You know what my
brothers?
fraternity
What-
name?
Yeah.
My cowboy.
Huh? Cowboy?
Cowboy. Yeah.
All right, that's it. Let me try it again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with my good friend, the 66th Inspector General, Leslie Cowboy Smith.
Oh.
Ride him,
oh.
ride him, roll
Ride
him up,
'em.
whip him out, rawhide.
Dan, what are we talking about today, bro?
I don't know, but we better talk about something before our listeners turn the station off, right?
Exactly. So,
What's that?
we have a great episode this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think as usual, you're going to ask me the first questions.
All right. Saddle up, cowboy. Here we go.
Okay.
Thinking back, we've all had mentors in our life.
Yes.
And I know you spoke about some in the past, and I have too, right? But I want you to find someone in your past that was significant in the shaping you as the leader you are today.
I have several, but I really like to talk about one in particular, Sergeant First Class William Saunders. He was my college ROTC instructor. But anyway, he was a Vietnam era vet, but he told us, you know what happens when you normally go to college, right? And you're ROTC and you're a student. You're like, yeah. But he told us, you want to do that again? Yeah. That means party. He told us that if we were focused as cadets, that he would teach us how to be very good lieutenants. And we kept asking him why. And then after a while, he told us that his lieutenant was the one who got a lot of people killed in his platoon when he was a young private in Vietnam. And from that point on, he was somebody that we went to get us to explain stuff about what it meant to be an officer, what it meant to be a leader, and really what it meant to be a soldier first, because you had to learn all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So how about you, Dan? Give us a mentor.
Many of them throughout my life. I'm going to talk about one I've never talked about before, and probably he deserves much credit. And I apologize, Sergeant First Class Jason D. Shipley, for not talking about you in the past. But he was a platoon sergeant when I was a squad leader. Just a phenomenal mentor. Really, I came out of Germany as a young NCO, made staff sergeant very quickly, went to Master Gunner School, but he taught me how to lead. I mean, really put the time and effort in, teach me how to counsel right, how to be a mentor, how to listen, how to be professional. Empathy is what he really taught me too. Something that a lot of leaders, especially in the combat arms, it's all hoo, smoke them if they're no good. He taught me about empathy, about, hey, sit back, relax, make the decision, be more informed and less emotional. He was just an awesome role model. And I owe much to what I am today to him. And I've never mentioned him before. So Jason Shipley, if you're out there, I still think you're one of the greatest mentors in my life.
Yeah, Jason, I need to talk to you because you need to do some more work on this guy. Hey, Dan, I'm not worried about you, and our guest today thinks highly of me too.
Yeah, this guy's amazing. I think our listeners are really going to enjoy this guy. Yeah. We've had so many people on here. And I'm going to coin the phrase. I said it to him. He's wicked smart, but he's way more than that too.
Yeah,
I want our listeners to think about this is an amazing person, but this is common.
Yes.
In the people that join our Army.
That's right.
It's the stories that these young men and women that are willing to sacrifice and the journeys they take is pretty common. Now, this guy's pretty special, right? He's very special.
He's very special.
If you get to know these people, you'd be amazed about how many incredible stories are out there, but we're about to share one with you, aren't we, Les?
Yeah.
Why don't you bring him on the show, Les?
Okay.
Why don't you bring him on the show?
Colonel Chaveso, Chevy Cook, welcome to Army Matters, sir.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, folks.
Chevy, for a lot of people, your story begins when somebody unexpectedly cares for you. Mm-hmm. For you, that woman was someone you call Mama J.
Yes.
First, tell us where she's from, where you're from, and describe Mama J for our listeners.
Okay. So I'm from Columbia, South Carolina. I was originally born in Tampa, Florida, but a divorce between my birth parents had me move in with an aunt in Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay.
But she had moved to Columbia. She actually was my next door neighbor. My aunt's situation just wasn't tenable. And eventually she was just interested in us hanging out a little bit more and not as much with our cousins that were doing some things that were kind of unscrupulous in the neighborhood. And eventually that moving in and just taking care of us became a true adoption. So Mama J today, the person I go visit when I take my kids to their grandparents, it's my next door neighbor. It's Mama J.
Okay, so hold on now. So she was not actually your aunt.
No. I moved in with my aunt with some cousins. This lady was my next door neighbor.
Okay.
And we were just into some stuff that we shouldn't have been into. And this lady, my next door neighbor, recognized what was happening and just eventually was like, I just want to take care of these kids. And to your earlier question of what she taught me, this was the first person who taught me to invest in the community, because she literally took us in her home from next door because she recognized that we weren't in the best situation. And she did that of her own heart. My aunt didn't ask her to do that. She just recognized the need and she walked toward it.
Wow. But she was working 2 jobs at the time.
Yes.
And what else was she doing? You said she helped in the community?
Well, she eventually started helping coach in baseball and all kind of stuff that we were involved in just to keep us out of that trouble, and carting us across town. I went to school on a bus that took me about 2 hours to get to middle school and 2 hours to get home. So she got really involved in going across town and shepherding us around like many parents do.
But then you were told that college was your path forward. That probably wasn't your first thought growing up,
No.
the situation that you were in, right?
No.
But so tell us about that. Who mentored you to do that, and where did you end up going?
So it really starts with Mama J. She says, you have to get out of this neighborhood and you have to go to college and you have to do it for free. That was her ultimatums. And then from kind of that point, really the person who did it, who was most involved, was Corey Roberts at an early age. He's my 5th grade teacher. And one day he just didn't let me go to recess because I was kind of cutting up. And he asked me a simple question, which was, where do you want to be in 5 years? He just asked me all these rapid fire questions that I couldn't answer. And what it boiled down to was he was saying, hey, all this extra energy you're cutting up in class and everything, if you took that energy and focused on those questions, you might be a better person. So it's a full circle story for real.
That's amazing.
All right, so Chevy, so you didn't tell, so where'd you go? Where'd you go to school?
So I went to West Point, and it came off of that 5-year plan. When I was a freshman in high school, someone asked me a very similar question.
Yeah. Well, you just didn't show up. I mean, it just processed to get in there.
So
Tell us.
Give us some background on
Come
that.
on.
So I'm in high school, and Paul Thomas Grimes is a retired Vietnam veteran who retired in the 80s. And when I was a freshman, here comes this West Point graduate. I never heard of the institution, didn't know where it was. And I got the same question, where do we want to be in 5 years? And after she talked about this place and it clicked in my ears, well, my mama said I need to go to college. Boom, this is a college. I need to go for free. Oh, boom.
Okay.
She was a second lieutenant at the time.
So she came in locally for recruiting?
I think so. I think she was from the area and was just doing hometown recruiting as she graduated.
Nice.
And here she is telling me about this place. And she said I just needed to go and serve. And I was like, well, I'm just going to go to school and do a little bit of service and get out and I guess do the next thing.
What do you think about your junior ROTC instructors? You know, those guys bringing, I'm sure she wasn't the only person.
We saw everybody. They brought in, you name it. There were people from the local YMCA. There were normal kind of people from other colleges and schools. And really what Tom Grimes and James Sanderson were trying to do was just expose us to opportunity. People don't understand from a mentorship perspective. Oftentimes you just need exposure. You just need to know what exists. And they were just doing that for us. And I think extremely highly of them both. Paul Thomas Grimes, still alive, a grandfather that lives in Florida that loves to call me sir on the phone, which I try not to allow, but he tells me, well, you outrank me now because he retired as a lieutenant colonel. And he takes great pride in calling me sir on the phone. A really wonderful man.
Yeah. So when you got to West Point, when did you realize that service meant something more? And how did West Point challenge some of your beliefs about strength and at the same time vulnerability that you had growing up?
So I graduated in 2004, and my class is for Country and Corps 2004 is our motto. Really special set of folks. To me, honestly, it was 9/11, which happened my sophomore year. It just changed the academy in total. So all of a sudden, this is real. This is serious. Our training, our classroom instruction, the instructors themselves. That was a real turning point for me. No, it's real now, especially when I was a junior and a senior and graduates had gone off to war and some of them, unfortunately, had passed. So it really changed us all for sure.
Yeah. You got a name of an instructor or TAC NCO that had a big impact on you while you were there?
Oh, for sure. Tom Gillerin and Jeff Helms. Tom Gillerin was an SF officer, and he's the one who's like, you don't want to go to Fort Stewart. You want to jump out of planes at Fort Bragg. But it was really his subtlety. He would come in the evenings when we were doing, studying, and he just kind of walk around the barracks checking on us studying. And he would often do like, "Hey, do you want to come play pool real quick? Just take a break." I'm like, "Yeah, of course, sir." And as we were playing pool, he just kind of subtly asked, like, "Hey, what do you think about your, where you want to go and what you want to do with your career?" He was just like layering it in with talking smack on the pool table. It was really great.
So he was doing psychological operations on you.
Yeah, he was. I will credit him with that.
Yeah, maybe he's letting you in. So
Yeah.
the reason why I asked that question is because then you graduated, right? But you also returned there as a tactical officer and an instructor.
I did.
And you said that returning to West Point did not break you. Instead, it broke you open. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a PhD response, right?
That is. This is
Here's how I will put it. It was going to be real hard to return to the academy and be a tactical officer and then also be an instructor. That's, two roles. But it actually broke me open in the sense that I became more humble and vulnerable by being in front of cadets and really thinking through what lessons I wanted to share and how I wanted to make myself available or open to them. Now it was about opening myself up to a vulnerability that cadets need. Cadets need to see and hear and envision the real version of you. And I think you can only do that through vulnerability.
That's a great point. And I'm going to ask you about one particular cadet, but I want to step back into the vulnerability aspect and you as a leader, why you think that's important. So
right.
Tell us about Cadet Darty Gillette, that full circle moment. Tell me when you first met her, what you saw about her, and then you promoting her.
So here I am during the summer.
What was your rank this time?
I was either a very senior captain or a junior major at the time.
Okay.
And I'm out at something called Camp Buckner, which is sophomore training. And I see one of these cadets. I was like, I need to go check on Cadet Gillette real quick and see what's going on here. Well, fast forward over those next couple of years, I wasn't her leadership during the academic year, but she just sought me out and asked me to guide her through some things, some decisions, and on and forward, we figured out that we had a very similar background, very similar kind of growings up, just generations removed. She grew up in Chicago. I grew up in the South, but we grew up in some similar scenarios. Now, fast forward, she comes to brag. Not that I had any influence on that, of course, like Tom did on me, but she wanted to jump out of planes and we just continued to do the thing forward. And at every juncture, she was asking questions about, do I take this command versus that one? And then eventually she asked me a question that I couldn't turn down, which is, will you come promote me to major? I'm not allowed to say no because I missed too much of that growing up as a young lieutenant. So now I just don't say no. So, standing in front of her and her team at HRC very recently, as she was promoted merit-based, meaning ahead of her entire year group, she's a very successful field artillery officer, was really special because I've seen her, walk in uniform for the better part of 12 or 13 years. And here she is still being successful. It's great.
Oh, that's cool. So let's jump back a little bit to you. So you don't just become a psychological operations officer. So talk to us about what was your basic branch and then why the decision become psychological operations?
So I graduated from the academy and became an air defense artillery officer in 3-4 Air Defense Artillery Regiment, 3-4 ADAR in the 82nd.
Fort Bragg. Yeah.
Fort Bragg. Yeah, I go there and I go on my first deployment. It turns out being the surge. We're doing force protection in CRAM, counter rocket artillery mortar. And then we're going to transition to a hybrid unit that has Patriot. And here I am going to have to learn a whole new weapon system and a new way of leading. And I was like, well, if I'm going to change, maybe this is an opportune time to change to something else that can maybe be more unique. And I wanted to do something with psychology. I wanted to get out actually and become a psychologist. And my wife was like, hey, we can't pay for that. You need to stay in the Army. And her only rule was, hey, I don't want to really move a whole lot. Aha.
I got it.
I got the thing. I got this thing called psychological operations. So that's how I transitioned to it.
Okay. So how did that experience change your understanding of influence?
Oh, it fundamentally changed, right? Like before, you just kind of think of a used car salesman with respect to influence, or some old school like person coming to the door selling vacuums.
Yeah.
It really got into the weaponeering, if you will, of psychology and the idea of really understanding human behavior and being able to think through, well, I can make somebody do something if I have a weapon, for sure. I can point it at them. I can yell out, Irtifa Yaduk, Arabic for raise your hands, and they'll probably do what I want them to do. But if I don't have a weapon, and maybe I'm dressed like a local, and they don't know me as an authority figure or a soldier, now what I actually say, my body language and all of that really, really becomes much more important because they're not responding to a muzzle or up armored vehicle. They're just responding to me. So it really changed how I thought about not just influencing foreign target audiences and places I was, but just how I would day to day influence those around me, kids, wife, everyone else.
Hey, did you get your AUSA merch yet? Check out our online selection at shop.ausa.org.
Welcome back to Army Matters. So Chevy, you found yourself at the Pentagon, a place near and dear to Les and my hearts. How did you wind up at the Pentagon writing speeches for the Secretary of the Army?
So I am finishing my PhD. I am on the battalion command list, but there's going to be a gap year. I'm going to have a year. My command is going to be at Fort Meade, which is in the NCR, National Capital Region. And I'm talking to a mentor again. This just going to keep coming up. Rich Clark at the time was a SOCOM commander and had been a long mentor. And he was actually going to promote me to lieutenant colonel during that time as well. And he's like, I know you got a gap year and we're going to send you to the basement of the Pentagon. You know, we're going to send you in this special operations thing in the basement where you be down there grinding it out. And I'm like, yes, sir.
The windowless pit.
The windowless pit. He just, he said, well, the speechwriting position for the Sec Army, who's not named yet, is coming open. Do you want to do that? And as many of our listeners know, when a 4-star asks a junior officer, do you want to do this? It's not a question. It's not a question. So he invited me to the position and I went and interviewed. And next thing I know, I showed up before she showed up. And then I got the wonderful opportunity to be in the greatest leadership lab ever, which was being an understudy to Christine Wormuth.
Yeah. And what did that teach you about leadership communication?
Well, 2 things really from her. And I've said much about her grace and how she carried herself in spaces, but she practices discernment. Discernment is like the next layer down or more deep, where she could see 100 slides. There could be 10 people briefing her, and she would just pluck out of the air, like, this is the most important thing we need to focus on. Or she would be like, this is something we're all missing right here. And she drilled down into that. Not to be a gotcha. She was just like, hey, being insightful, being discerning, pulling people into the conversation. Mm-hmm. And then the other piece there that I learned from her, a really big lesson, was she also didn't waste any time with the words she used. There's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, which is, speak only to improve upon the silence. She was a master of that. She didn't say anything unless she needed to. And again, it was just a leadership lab, and watching her expertly communicate as I tried to halfway write speeches for her, which she tore up all in all good fashion.
So you go into battalion command after that year, and tell us what happens after that, after you come out of battalion command.
Well, you know, the good old place called the Pentagon or the penitentiary has a high recidivism rate. And they tend to call you back.
Yeah. So
I did, and allowed me to stay in the space, but allowed me to go to the Joint Staff, which was a new opportunity, and being the J39, the Deputy Director for Global Operations, and advise our most senior leaders on non-kinetic effects.
So Chevy, help me out here. You're already busy in the military as an Army colonel. Then you created the Military Mentors Organization. How did that connection with the mentee in the past inspire you to do this? And how did it help your impact as a mentor and as a leader?
So Jim is a mentee. He was a cadet. He just stayed in contact over time. We couldn't be more different, but we couldn't have stayed more close over the years. And when he was eventually getting out of the military, transferring to the reserves and going to grad school, he just basically said like, "Hey, Chevy, we never served at the same place, but maybe, if I had more relationships like the one I have with you out of state active duty, and I want to fix it." And I said, "Okay, so how do you want me to like help you write this paper or this thesis or whatever?" And he was like, "No, no, no, no. I want to start a nonprofit." I was like, "Wait, this is what? You want to do what?" And initially, he was just really trying to do something that was scalable and something different. We're in our 11th year. We've trained thousands of people, not just in the military, but across. I can go on and on. We've consulted so many different styles and types of leaders across our nation and internationally. We've had fellows in some of our fellowship programs from the UK, from Germany, from Italy, from Greece, from Canada. We've just done so much. And it's taught me a lot about when you lead a volunteer organization, where you can't lead with your badges, your patches, your tabs, your rank, but you're just coming from a place of maybe influence or a place of connection to something other than just your military position. It teaches you a lot about how to get volunteers, how to get people passionate and fired up to be purposeful about their own development and their connection to each other.
Chevy, you've done so much. You attended West Point, you worked at the Pentagon, you earned a PhD. You also do a lot of writing and published 2 Harding papers with our team here at AUSA. What makes you passionate about writing and publishing?
Writing became, obviously, I was writing before I got the speechwriter job. I think it played into me getting that opportunity. And I was writing before I got a PhD, which helped me with the PhD stuff. And what it comes down to is we can read stuff, if you have a religious bend, you can release religious texts that were written down eons ago. So publication for me becomes permanence. It's an opportunity to have something that some other human may partake in thousands of years from now, honestly. But I really do think if you take your idea and you publish it, it has the opportunity to reach people. And some editors will say whether your idea is worth public consumption or not. Somebody will say, well, that was a good idea, but it's not good enough for everybody. Or someone will say like, hey, this is really good. We need to make this go viral, and you can get your words out there. So that's why I'm very, very passionate about publication.
So Chevy, I got to admit something to you. Writing is not my thing. It's always been a challenge for me and something I labor over. But with you, it seems to come natural. Is that true? Does it come natural to you?
No. My writing is very practiced. When you first start riding a bike, when you transition from maybe running, it's a different style of it's a different pace and everything, right? Like you got to get used to it. And if you get off of a bike, though the old adage is, you can always ride once you get on the bike, you can always ride it. It's not like cycling is different. It's the same thing with writing. So what people don't know about me unless they're close is I bullet journal every day. So I'm writing every day. If I post on the internet, I actually write that in my notes first, type it all out, and then I copy paste it to the internet. So I'm constantly revising and having a writing practice that just keeps me practiced. And a lot of times it's just getting a lot of stuff on the page and then cutting. I'm a big write it all up front and then cut back from there.
So let's talk about failure and a failure resume.
Yes.
Now, we've heard you talk about that. It's become something a part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it. What's a failure resume?
Quite simply put, it is exactly what you think it is. It's a resume that is usually full of accomplishments, that's full of failures. Most people don't put that together. We all keep our resumes up to date in our CVs so we can get jobs. I'm just one of those people that keeps a parallel one that chronicles the schools I didn't get into, the awards that I didn't get, and personal failures too, missteps as a father and as a husband. And I think that documentation is just as important as the other resume.
Why?
Ultimately, it's because it allows me a conduit to talk to other people about my failures without being closeted. We get to choose what we share, right? We choose the failure or the moment that we want to share. Well, I have a failure resume. Somebody else chooses what they want to talk to me about. Well, I'm different. There's nothing to find. It's already published. It's already out there. So it affords me the opportunity to not beat people to the punch, but you don't have to look. You don't have to search. You don't have to like pull up some log somewhere and look behind some crevice to find out who I am. I've already gave it to you. And there's a freeing nature to that. It makes me feel so much lighter.
So looking back on your career then, so what's one failure that transformed the way you lead? And what motivated you, like you said, to share that experience rather than keep it private?
Sergeant Major, when I was a young captain, I had a company commander who I won't name, but he was a major. He ultimately removed me from a team, put me on a different deployment to a whole different country, and deployed me early to teach me a lesson. And what that taught me some years later was that I was not leading up. Leading up was something I hadn't heard of. And then I realized in my relationship with him that instead of going around him, I should have worked more with him in a way and that could have built our relationship. It's not about not, going back and not being fired. It's about really empowering him and really empowering myself and my team to have a tighter relationship as opposed to being antagonistic and always at loggerheads with each other. He hadn't been a company commander before. And here I was like expecting so much out of him and moving around him and not working with him and not leading up.
What do you wish more leaders, both young and old, understood about failure?
Really that we're not scared of failure itself. I think there's a whole culture out there about failing fast and, all of that stuff nowadays. But really, we fear the outcomes of failure. We don't fear, going into a firefight as much as we fear the death of a soldier or not accomplishing the mission. If we were to deal with it in the right way, developmentally, and talk about the outcomes in a different way, then we wouldn't be so glib about what failure actually is. Not many people are actually scared of failing itself. It's the outcomes. So if we think through the outcomes, then maybe we can tamp down our fears in a productive way.
Chevy, I got to ask. I mean, you are obviously a very accomplished person. You've done a lot throughout your life, and you shaped the lives of other people. What's next?
I've been asked to be the garrison commander for Honduras, Sotocano, next summer. So I will get the chance to go down there.
I didn't even know we had a garrison command down there. Is that
we do.
That's a joint base?
There is. It is a joint base. There are two 06s there. One's the garrison commander. One's the JTF Bravo commander, which most people are more familiar with. So one does the ops and one does the support piece. I commanded in the garrison before. It just makes sense for me to kind of contribute back to the force in this way as well. Looking forward to it.
So Chevy, when listeners hear this, what message do you hope stays with them?
I think we talked a lot about mentorship, and I named a bunch of people. Some of them are famous and they're retired 4-stars. Some of them, no one's ever heard them before they heard this podcast. And really realize what mentorship can be. That's going to be all of our legacies. And if you really want to, you can write and it can be permanent, right? And people can read your words thousands of years from now. But your investment in somebody next to you can really make a difference. Realize that your conversation, 8, 10, 15 minutes, or maybe an investment of 8, 10, 15 years is what's really going to truly dent the universe, make an impact, and it's going to be your true legacy in your community and beyond, I think.
But hey, Chevy, appreciate you, man, on multiple levels. Us standing up the powerful prose and the writing program that the Hardy Papers and that the chief asked us to do, and you jumped in, both feet And we really appreciate everything that you're doing.
I appreciate you both. I appreciate your service. I'm sure people tell you all the time, thank you for your service. Your service is continuing through AUSA and through venues like this. And I'm very glad to be a part of this broader, larger Army family.
Yeah, thanks for your service, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. Army Matters is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army-connected. Visit us at ausa.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General Retired Les Smith and SMA Retired Dan Dailey, and anchor hosted by Carrie Barrow-Heckes. Andy Bosnack is the associate producer and supervising sound editor. Major Ryan Crane is the writer, and Ellen Toner is the content editor. Umzinga Curry is the executive producer. Carrie Barrow-Heckes is the senior producer, and Savannah Campbell-Smith is the producer. Be sure to subscribe to Army Matters wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Reach Across America Radio on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app.
So there's going to be like some
word
scratchy
read.
writing on paper. And
For
then...
questions or to provide topic recommendations,
Okay.
email us at podcast@ausa.org. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you're not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest.
His story
the views
about
and
how
opinions
he
of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA.
Started off.
I'm Lashira Duncan, hoping you have a great Army day. Hooah.
Yeah. All right, so let's just try it and see how it goes and move on. Okay.